I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and this is Equal Entertainment. CMT is pulling Jason Aldean's newest single, Try That in a Small Town, off the air after some called it, quote, a modern-day lynching song. If you haven't heard the song, it's only 3 minutes long, but it says a lot. In the lyrics, Aldean says, cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag, and light it up. Yeah? You think you're tough? Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Aldean is from Georgia, but the music video, released on July 14th, was shot in front of the Maury County Courthouse in Tennessee. That's where the lynching of Henry Choate took place in 1927, and it's the site of the Columbia race riot in 1946. The video shows violent protests and robberies, but none of the good guys with guns in the video are Black. One Tennessee state lawmaker condemned the song, calling it a, quote, shameful vision of gun extremism and vigilantism. Aldean defended the song with a tweet, writing, quote, there isn't a single video clip that isn't real news footage. Disney CEO Bob Iger is addressing concerns the company could sell its television assets altogether. Iger spoke to senior leaders of Disney's television businesses. He fielded questions and, according to a source, told personnel that the content created by Disney's TV production teams is valuable to their business. His talk came days after Iger suggested in an interview that Disney's linear business may not be core to the company. The statement reportedly caused high anxiety. Iger has been quoted as writing that writers and actors are not being realistic with their hopes and demands. There may be a big break into the investigation into the death of rapper Tupac Shakur. A search warrant has been issued. 30 years after his killing, Las Vegas police served the search warrant in nearby Henderson, although it's not clear where exactly that took place. Shakur was shot in 1996 when leaving a boxing match at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. He was shot 4 times and died 6 days later. Tupac is one of the most influential lyricists of all time. Actor, director, and screenwriter Guinevere Turner is known for writing American Psycho and The Notorious Betty Page, and of course for the lesbian film Go Fish. But her story begins with an infamous cult. When Turner was very young, her mother joined the Lyman family. The group was based on a compound in Kansas. It was headed by Mel Lyman, who's been described as the East Coast Charles Manson. They believed the world would end on January 5th, 1975, and that a spaceship would take them to Venus. Turner has a new memoir out about her experiences before and after the cult.
On writing the memoir, I am blown away by the level of detail that you were able to fit into this memoir. And I really just want to begin by asking you where you began. How did you begin to suss out this period in your life and form it into this incredible book?
I've been wanting to write about this specifically, just about this very unusual childhood that I had and the transition into the real world and the irony of how everybody thinks growing up in a cult sounds terrifying, and actually life got much worse post cult, and the irony of that, but also the complicated nature of that. So anyway, I tried to write about it in my 20s. I tried to write about it in college in a fiction workshop, and all that happened was people talked to me about the cult and not about writing. So then I was like, no, I need to learn about writing. I tried to write it in my 30s. I tried to write it in my 40s. I just was always sort of stuck about how to approach it, how not to make it, quote unquote, a cult story. And was I ready? I was genuinely I had this fear. I didn't want them, the family that I grew up in, to hate me or think anything negative. I was in good standing with them. I was just a kid who had to go at a certain age, and so I was. I amazingly, decades and decades later, I still need these people to be in good standing with them.
You have so much detail, and I'm imagining that's because you kept journals for years. And maybe I'm wrong, but would you talk a bit about diving into those journals and the experience of kind of opening up that piece of your past and having to go there?
From the minute I was from the minute I was given a diary, and the first one was when I was 9, that's just one that's lost in the ether. I felt the need to keep a record of things.
Wow.
That is just my nature. And I think it's, a lot because I was moving from place to place, and different people would come and go. And it felt like there was no, like center to all the comings and goings of these people, of my family. And so I mean, I have a part in the book where I talk about, will I remember this? How will I remember this moment? I'm like, I'm 10. And and I just go through this whole thing, and I finally land on this squirrel that's in this tree out of the window. And I'm like, that squirrel, like, I'm going to force myself to remember that forever. And what's hilarious is, like, it worked. I have nothing else to say about that squirrel. But I was having this, sort of existential crisis in my head. Like, what do we remember? There's no way to remember everything. And that's always been a part of my personality. Like almost a compulsive sort of fear of losing minutia. Wow. And so I wrote like that. I still write like that all the time to myself. And then once I left the Lyman family, I was so sad and so out of place that I would just tell myself entire days of things that happened, what rooms looked like, what people said, what people's favorite clothes were. Like, I was searing all of those memories and all of those details into my brain at 11. So they're just there because they're born out of longing.
Wow, that's very powerful. Thank you. I wonder, would you talk a little bit about, you were continuously told, this is something that girls and women hear all the time, you were told that you were selfish. You were told to be smaller, not take up space, and continually put down in that way, which is very verbally abusive. And yet you still became this incredibly creative person. Often that sort of language will tamp a person down. Would you talk a bit about how you believe you overcame that to become the creative, really the leader in, especially for lesbian visibility in the 90s and throughout the past several decades?
It's interesting. I think it's rare in our lives that we can pinpoint a moment that kind of where something clicked in us and we became a kind of person. And for me, it's when I sort of begged to stay with the Lyman family, and I was sent away anyway. And then when I finally saw my mother, she took my sister and said, I knew they'd give me Anna Lee, but I never thought I'd see you again. And that's, was devastating and heartbreaking, but not as much as it would be to the average person, because I didn't really have a relationship with my mother. But what it did it did have this wash over me. So they don't want me, and she never thought she would see me again. I am totally free. The number one skill I developed this before I left the family, trying to figure out who everyone in the room needs you to be. Because I grew up in this kind of environment where you never knew, what was going to get you in trouble. And, I think adult children of alcoholics describe a similar thing. Just living on edge, and what am I going to encounter, and who do I need to be to fix it, and or not get whatever the negative attention is on me.
When the World Didn't End is available for downloads and in stores. Britney Spears is teaming up with will.i.am to release some new music. The former Black Eyed Peas frontman revealed a text-only video accompanied by an audio snippet teasing the song. Spears hasn't released solo music since 2016, but she recently collabed with Elton John for a Tiny Dancer remix. Britney also has a new memoir coming out in the fall. The Woman in Me will dive into her conservatorship battle and her struggle for freedom. You can watch The Advocate channel live by downloading our app in the Apple or Google Play Store. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. For The Advocate channel, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and thank you for watching.